Part 1 of this video left off at some foundational ideas about what readers expect when they approach a text. This video looks at how writers can live up to those expectations. First, the topic position. Place the answer to the question, whose story is this, at the beginning of the sentence, which is called the topic position. Why? Because the ideas at the beginning of sentences define what a passage is about for readers. Notice the difference between these two simple sentences. The first sentence is a story about bees. The second, a story about pollen. Quite by accident, writers often don't make the subject of sentences very easy to discern. Here's an example of a sentence with no clear subject or focus. Is it about presentation of data, a problem with an inaccurate status, decisions? Readers need much more clarity than that, provided in the topic position at the beginning of the sentence. Next up, subject-verb separation. After learning the subject of a sentence, readers want action. They want the subject and the verb as close together as possible so they can connect the who with the what. But scientific writing often obscures action, placing it so far away from the subject that readers have a difficult time even finding it. Let's look at an example. Because some scientists appears in the topic position of this sentence, this is presumably a story about them, right? Great. So what happens to them? 11 words later, we learn that they do not easily communicate with lay people. Honestly, this sentence is not that bad. Still, notice how far apart the subject and the verb are. But look at these two sentences. Everything in the bold is separating the subject from its verb, the main character from its action. Everything in the bold, frankly, is in the way. If the writers of these sentences want their readers to know that the conclusion was erroneous in the first example, and the research experiences provided unique insights in the second example, they need to not ask readers to trudge through all that intervening information. But separation anxiety isn't the only thing plaguing many verbs in unclear writing. Lots of verbs also don't convey enough action. Read this sentence. Where's the action? Those underlined words look like verbs, but they're actually nominalizations, which are verbs that we've turned into nouns. How about this example? All the verbs are bolded. The egg extract is, this is surprising, the transcription factors are presumed to be, because genes are transcribed, the extract has, there is, inhibition can. Here are those verbs listed. Not a ton of action happening, which is a problem. Now, let's talk about stress position. Readers naturally emphasize whatever shows up at the ends of sentences or passages. So, unconsciously or consciously, readers first figure out who the story is about. Then they try to figure out what's happening to that person or thing, and then they look for the point. In a single sentence, that naturally emphasized point is typically a few words. In a longer passage, however, it might be several lines. The point here is to be aware that readers are emphasizing what appears at the end, whether you intended for that to happen or not. Finally, the known new contract is the idea that readers are more comfortable with new information if it follows information they already know. Here's a social example. I walk into a room, introduce myself to everyone, and then start talking about writing. Knowing that I'm a writing teacher makes everyone more comfortable with the material I'm teaching. Now let's say I walk into a room, don't introduce myself, and immediately start teaching writing. Everyone in the room will be too busy wondering, who is this guy, to pay any attention to my material. A similar logic exists at the sentence level. At the same time that you're making sure to place the appropriate subject in the topic position, you also need to be ensuring that whatever appears in that topic position has linkage backward to what preceded it. That way, readers will already be familiar and comfortable with it. Then, once you've placed that new information in the stress position, where readers will naturally emphasize it, consider how it's going to lean forward to the next sentence. If all of that feels like a lot to juggle, it is. But the more conscious of it you are, the more you practice, the easier it will become. In review then, put the subject of your sentence in the topic position at the beginning and make sure that information is known to readers and links back to the preceding sentence. Keep your verbs close to your subjects and articulate the action of your sentences in those verbs. Remember that readers emphasize whatever appears in the stress position at the end, and that whatever new information you place there needs to lean forward and connect to the next sentence.